So there are, up there are our satin dolls, and here's our satin doll, our Luminarts fellow winner, Alyssa Allgood.
Cigarette holder, which wigs me over his shoulder. He digs me out catting that satin doll. Baby, shall we go out skipping? Careful, amigo, you're flipping. Speaks Latin, that satin doll. He's nobody's fool, so I'm playing it cool as can be. I'll give it a try, but I ain't for no guy catching me. Switch up any telephone numbers. Well, you know I'm doing my rumba with Uno and that in my satin doll.
Here's Rocky Era. Here's Tom Hope. Lawrence on the drum. Yeah, Satin Doll. Alyssa Allgood, Rocky Era, Tom Hope, Lawrence Haskin on the drums. Percy Grainger. He was a world-famous composer and dean of the New York University School of Music. In 1935, Percy Grainger said, "The three greatest composers that ever lived that ever lived are Bach, Delius, and Duke Ellington. Percy Grainger also said, unfortunately, Bach is dead, Delius is sick in Paris, but today we still have Duke Ellington. And I will talk later about how we still have Duke Ellington today. Duke Ellington was constantly composing 1,700 songs and extended works in total. You just heard two pieces that represent Duke's two methods of composition. The first, Satin Doll, 1953, is a collaboration, in this case with Billy Strayhorn. And the second, In My Solitude, he composed alone. In My Solitude was written in 1934 in 20 minutes prior to a recording session. His orchestra was supposed to record 4 songs, and since only 3 were prepared, Duke wrote Solitude, the song, and the arrangement while waiting for the preceding band to finish up. So tonight, you heard Solitude arranged and conducted by Neve Yari and performed by the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. The Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Duke Ellington's secret greatness was his ability to create a collaborative environment where others could develop their own voice. This is rare in the history of music and the arts. And for his collaborations, Duke utilized their unique talents and improvisations as starting point for compositions. Duke would sign copyright and royalty contracts with his collaborators, often splitting the revenues 50-50 or a third with the lyricist. And there are examples of these contracts on display in the library, signed by Duke Ellington, including a rare Edward Kennedy Ellington signature, signatures of some of his co-collaborators like Johnny Hodges, who wrote Don't Get Around Much, Mercer Ellington, his son, who wrote Things Ain't What They Used to Be, Juan Teasdale, Caravan, Perdido, Jubilesca, and others like Clark Terry, Mary Lou Williams, Cat Anderson, Irving Mills, Billy Strayhorn, Charlie Shavers, Louis Bellson. Other original signatures on display, including Ruth Ellington, his sister, Edna, his wife, and others. Now, one unusual feature of many of Duke Ellington's songs, and the both you just heard, is that the final melody note does not end on the tonic, or that is the bass note of the final chord of the song. He liked to leave the melody unresolved, creating the feeling that the song needs to move on. Clark Terry, one of Duke's famous trumpet players, once described Duke's music as always becoming. More on this in a minute. But the openness of Duke Ellington's style of writing today still encourages jazz artists to improvise on his melodies, just like his orchestra would do 60 years ago. Thus, Duke's music is constantly growing with the times, and as Percy Grainger said, Duke is still with us as his music format continues to invite others to improvise their own ideas. So tonight, the improvisers on Satin Doll were Luminarts Cultural Scholarship Fellows, Alyssa Allgood on vocals, Rocky Yera on tenor sax, Tom Hope, our judge and mentor on piano, and Lawrence Haskin on the drums. As a side note, Alyssa, one of our Luminarts fellows, is just back from Washington, D.C., where she won the Ella Fitzgerald competition. She won first place. It's a national competition in Washington. Everybody apparently submitted online. There were 5 finalists, and she went to Washington, D.C. just this last week and won first place. Alyssa Allgood. Now, we're going to hear more from Alyssa in a moment. Billy Strayhorn and Duke collaborated on many works, including Satin Doll and A-Train, and some of Duke's extended works, Sacred Concerts, Chelsea Bridge, Black, Brown, and Beige. But also on display tonight is an original Strayhorn composition written in Billy's hand. All right, next we are going to be performing a collaboration with Duke Ellington's alto saxophonist, Johnny Hodges, whose portrait is out there in the hall. This song is called Wings and Things. 1934, Johnny created this theme while improvising the blues. Duke took Johnny's musical idea and completed and orchestrated the song. The original music for Wings and Things, written in Duke Ellington's hand, is here on display over there. And it says, "For Johnny Hodges." It's written by Duke Ellington. This original music, plus other items on display tonight, I purchased at an auction in Harlem on a Wednesday evening last May. And these items are presently on loan to the Union League Club. Also on display tonight are original portraits of 20 members of the Duke Ellington Orchestra, painted by my wife, Judy Gillespie, including Johnny Hodges out there in the hall. All right, tonight to perform the Johnny Hodges alto composition collaboration on Wings and Things is another one of our Luminarts fellows, Brent Griffin. Yeah, Brent Griffin. Brent Griffin, Wings and Things. Yeah. In 1941, Johnny Hodges improvised the first 8 bars to Don't Get Around Much Anymore. It starts with a cry, and Duke wrote it down. He took it home after the job, where he would typically compose until early morning. Duke wrote the bridge and the middle section and finished the song, another great collaboration. Now, the song didn't get a lot of attention until Bob Russell wrote the famous words, "Miss the Saturday night dance. Here they crowded the floor. Couldn't bear it without you. Don't get around much anymore." Brent? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's Rocky. Yeah, Brent. Yeah, Brent Griffin. Yeah. Yeah. Brent was our Luminarts Fellow Scholarship winner a couple years ago. And we keep in touch when he's out of town. Also, performing on Don't Get Around Much was Rocky Yeara on tenor and Matt Etfeld, another scholarship recipient. Hey, it's important to recognize some special people here tonight. Supporters of the Jazz Union. Would everyone who's attended a Jazz Union event in the last year would like to stand up for a minute? Adjust your shorts. Yeah. Hey, the bar is still open, by the way. Hey, everybody that's attended a Jazz Union event in the last year, these people are very important. Their large contributions and also, more importantly, their attendance at these events encourage our youth. I had the idea back in the back of my mind for this concert when I ventured to Harlem that hot evening last May, hoping to purchase at auction some of these Ellington precious pieces. But without the support of those of you who are standing or were standing, I would not have had the confidence to proceed and invest the time in this project. So thank you, supporters of the Jazz Union. Yeah. Now, Duke Ellington's third idiosyncrasies. Do you remember the first two? I told you there wouldn't be a test, but first one is his collaborative approach to composition and open endings. The second thing was, the open endings. But the third thing was the interchangeability of the lyrics for his songs. He commissioned the best lyricists and often had multiple sets of words for one song. Like Mood Indigo was recorded 3 times with 3 different sets of lyrics credited to Irving Mills, Mitchell Parrish, and Gene Austin. Mitchell Parrish and Johnny Mercer were often interchangeable, and they were all busy creating and recording so much music it didn't seem that important. And most of the artists were very happy to sign royalty agreements with the Duke. Now, some of them which are on display up in the library. So Duke used at least 14 different lyricists over his career. Now next we are going to perform a Duke Ellington composition that has never been recorded or performed before, called Woman. This is a world premiere. The original music in Duke Ellington's hand, the only copy in existence, is on display over there against the wall. Let me read to you from the auction house catalog. Woman from Queenie Pie. Duke Ellington wrote compulsively until his death in 1974, even keeping a keyboard on hand in his hospital room for composition. Queenie Pie was one of his final projects and remained unfinished at the time of his death. This lead sheet in Duke Ellington's handwriting is the song Woman from the unfinished jazz opera. A sheet of lyrics is stapled to the back. Now, you know, composers have shortcuts for succinctly writing music so they can write quicker and take up less space. Classical musicians have terms and acronyms, shortcuts like DC, del capo, DS, del signo, al fine, coda, repeat signs. Jazz artists have added a few of their own shortcut symbols, and Duke Ellington has a few unique to him, all of which I understand. Arriving at the auction house 6 hours early, I viewed Duke Ellington's handwritten score for Woman. I searched Google and YouTube, and it's never been recorded and never been performed before. Now, regarding the lyrics stapled to the back of Woman, you can't authenticate the source of the words, but I didn't particularly care for them. They are in your program books, and everybody gets a program book if they want in the back there. So I didn't particularly care for the words. And we're not sure who wrote them anyhow. And thus in Duke's tradition of keeping the music open with collaboration and utilizing multiple lyricists. And since it has never been performed before, we are going to do both an instrumental version and a vocal version of this premiere performance of Woman. And I've asked Luminarts fellow Alyssa Allgood to write her own words to this Ellington melody. Now, Alyssa is an excellent choice. Neil Tesser, the Grammy Award-winning writer and critic and author of the Playboy Guide to Jazz, wrote, Alyssa crafts lyrics that spun clever narratives and also enhances the melodies. She makes small but telling adjustments that refresh songs without altering their essence. And what a better way to interpret Woman than a woman? Both versions of Woman, the instrumental and vocal, will be performed in an Ellington style. A special thanks to Bob Ojeda, who is Count Basie's, yes, Bob Ojeda. He was Count Basie's lead arranger for some 16 years, recorded with the Basie Band, his compositions. And Bob's special arranging and orchestral talents are indispensable to the successful presentation of these compositions. In addition, Bob Ojeda has also arranged and orchestrated for many famous vocalists, including Lena Horne, Sarah Vaughan, Rita Romero, Rosemary Clooney, Diane Shore. Bob also has performed and shared oral histories with many alumni of the Ellington Orchestra, including Clark Terry, Cat Anderson, Bill Berry, Johnny Coles, Lawrence Brown, Buster Cooper, Brett Woodman, Louis Belson, and Herb Jeffries. He has also orchestrated the Cole Porter 125th birthday celebration at the Auditorium Theater last fall. He was the orchestrator for that event at the Auditorium Theater. So it's important, it's appropriate that the premiere performance of Duke Ellington's Woman should be introduced excuse me, I'm skipping ahead. Now, earlier, I had quoted Clark Terry saying that Duke Ellington's music is always becoming. There's a picture, by the way, over there of Bob Ojeda with Clark Terry. But Clark Terry, one of Ellington's trumpet players, said that he took up the flugelhorn later in life. And his famous quote, someone asked him about learning how to play the flugelhorn. He says, a flugelhorn is like a woman. It can't be forced, and it has to be pampered. So thus it's appropriate, I think, that this premiere performance of Duke Ellington's Woman should be introduced on the flugelhorn and performed by Bob Ojeda, and the lyrics written and performed by a woman. So let's enjoy Bob Ojeda and Alyssa Allgood performing Duke Ellington's never-before-performed Woman.
shines past what the eyes see. Glimmered though it may be, this light sets her free, free to believe she can achieve. Now she's outgrown the only image she's known. Woman, a beautiful woman, rising high as the sun. She will stop for free to believe she can achieve. And now she's outgrown the only image she's known. Woman, a beautiful woman, rising high as the sun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Duke Ellington's Woman. Thank you, Terry. Thank you. All right. Arranger, Bob Ojeda. Lyricist, Alyssa Allgood. Yeah. Now, the title of the evening is Duke Ellington, His Music and His Musicians. We've talked about Johnny Hodges and Billy Strayhorn and Clark Terry. Now, Juan Tizol, he had an important member of the Duke Ellington Orchestra. He was not noted as an improviser, but more as a solo melody player. But because he played a valve trombone, he could play chromatics faster than a regular tenor trombone goes da 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 da. You can do it much faster with valves, chromatic passages. So while Lawrence Brown was playing beautiful melody leads, Duke and members could orchestrate using Juan's valve trombone. He could be playing with the trumpets or the saxophones, and it created additional compositional flexibility when scoring the music. Juan Tizol is also credited with composing or co-composing with the Duke Caravan, Perdido, Jubilesta, and others. And when Juan played Duke, the first 8 bars of Caravan, which has a chromatic passage at the end of the A theme, Duke says, I think I can work something, I can do something with that. So listen for the chromatics in this opening melody of Caravan. So tonight we're going to feature Luminarts Cultural Foundation Fellow Victor Garcia on the trumpet. Also, Matt Atfield will play the Juan Tizol role on the trombone. Here is Caravan. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Victor Garcia. Yeah, Matt Atfeld. Yeah. Yeah. Duke Ellington is considered by many of being America's greatest composer, not only because of the melodies he developed, but also because of the unique orchestrations and arrangements he crafted. In addition to being an excellent musician and composer now, Juan Tizol copied down many of the individual ensemble parts that the members of the orchestra had co-created over the years, thus permanentizing many of the orchestra's arrangements. Many studied Duke Ellington's improvised arrangements that Juan Tizol had written down. Gunther Schuller, a highly regarded classical composer, wrote a 40-page dissertation on the Ellington style in his 1968 publication, Early Jazz, Its Roots and Early Developments. Juan Tizol also introduced Duke to Spanish influences. He was born in Puerto Rico and also collaborated on some of the Middle Eastern melodies and harmonies like Caravan that Duke and Juan co-collaborated on. One piece called Blue Pepper from their Middle Eastern tour in 1953, Duke's original handwritten music for Blue Pepper is on display right now in the library. Juan was also the orchestra comedian. When things got a little tense or out of tune, Juan was always ready with a joke, and occasionally he would detonate on the bandstand stink bombs. We won't be doing that tonight at the Union League. Yeah, I asked Terry Hendrickson about a stink bomb, and he said, no. So, now, the next song, Jubilesca, Juan Tizol wrote in 1934. It was adapted from a dance done by the African-American slaves called the Juba. And on display tonight is an original letter from Juan Tizol to Duke Ellington, reminding him to update their copyright, along with Duke's handwritten copy of the melody, saying, Duke, just in case you forgot this, how the song goes, here's the melody. Can you please make sure we keep our copyright active? So maybe Juan was taking law lessons or something, I don't know. But, so, here is a song composed by, another song composed by Juan Tizol, and called Jubilesta. Yes, Rocky Era, Matt Atfeld. So did you notice how that kind of trailed off at the end? Now, it'd probably be more effective if we had had a real loud cymbal crash. But this, again, is sort of the Ellington, a lot of style he was working on was leaving it, the ending kind of open like, okay, you can, let's pick it up from here and do something. Before we open, we're going to have a little Q&A session here in a minute. So any of you that might want to ask a question. But before we do that, I want to perform one other piece that's never been performed before. And this is a song named Clara. I would, again, the music is on display tonight over there against the wall. Duke wrote Clara around 1964. Well, he was gigging and visiting friends in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Yay, Halifax. Are you Clara? No. If you're Clara, I want to talk to you after the gig. All right. The fact that the song had been written was not known for 30 years when a journalist discovered the lead sheet, the melody, in a vault in the National Museum of American History of the Smithsonian. But the song has never been recorded, published, or copyrighted. And unknown at that time was that there's an actual orchestration of Clara. It existed, the music, and it is actually orchestrated for strings and cellos, which is also rare for Duke Ellington. So displayed here is that original orchestration, written in Duke and Mercer's handwriting. And so now enjoy a faithful adaptation of the orchestration done by Bob Ojeda. Hey, and performing Luminarts scholarship winner on the alto sax on Clara was Brent Griffin. Yeah. Now, I thought if you wanted, if anybody wanted to ask any questions, we could have a Q&A before, and the bar is still open, by the way. Yeah. Anybody's welcome to go to the bar. And does anybody want to ask any questions of the group? Did I see anybody? Here we go. How come this material was never discovered? Well, when Duke passed away, he had a warehouse. He had a warehouse up on Riverside Drive. And he, after a couple years, Mercer, his son, sold everything. But Duke's sister, Ruth, had some stuff that she kept. And because some of these things were very late in his life, he hadn't taken the time to put them in the warehouse. So they kind of sat around, and Ruth's husband named James had a son named Stephen James. And Stephen had this auction of, and I can show you the auction catalog if you're interested, but there was lots of memorabilia, clothing, and stuff like that. So what's this? All right. Question. The question is, Duke Ellington the best composer in America? Well, you know, he's my favorite composer, but that is a kind of a personal thing. Now, there's three parts to music. To a composition, there's the song, there's the development, and there's the orchestration. Now, if you think about songs, Duke Ellington, I listed a bunch of them in your program book. He was a wonderful songsmith. Now, so was George Gershwin. Some of you would vote for George Gershwin, right? George Gershwin, he wrote I Got Rhythm, fascinating rhythm, someone to watch over me, shall we dance, embraceable you, they can't take that away from me, nice work if you can get it, lady be good. So, who do you like better, George Gershwin or Duke Ellington? Okay? So it gets into kind of a personal thing, doesn't it? Let's talk about the second thing. I said first is the song. Second is the development. Now, Gershwin gets a lot more playtime on his extended works. His Concerto in F, his American in Paris, Porgy and Bess, the opera, Rhapsody in Blue. The Chicago Symphony is doing two of those this season. Now, Ellington also wrote extended works where he developed his melodies. They don't get as much playtime, his sacred music, a lot of his suites. So maybe there I'd vote for Gershwin. But when it comes to orchestration, the ability to create new kinds of sounds with varieties of instruments, you'd have to give Ellington credit on that. He was an inspiration and continues to be to many people for many, many years. And as I say, Gunther Schuller, the famous American composer, he went to hear Duke Ellington's band and he said, I couldn't believe it. All these sound, I couldn't understand where these sound, how he was getting these unusual combinations of sounds. So he said, I wrote it down as much as I could. I went back the next night, and they were playing the same songs, and arrangements were different. So he wrote a 40-page treatise. He got some records and wrote this 40-page treatise, went back again, and again the band was playing all together differently. So he says, what am I supposed to do now, right? Another? Anyhow, he was, Ellington made tremendous contributions, not only in his songs, some of his extended works are exceptional, and his orchestrations were wonderful. Any more questions? Yeah, well, he's my favorite, yeah. But I mean, I like George Gershwin too. Yes, sir. No. It's just the privilege of membership. Although, do you have any cash on you? Maybe we could talk this. He wants to know if this performance is going to be available on CD. No, it's not going to be. Oop. Hello, Mr. Harris. Okay, where are we? You know, that's one I wish I had, because it features, he's asking if we have the chart to rock and rhythm. And that featured Harry Carney, the baritone player. Bob, how come you haven't written that down for me, you know? Oh. Hey, if you promise to come back next year, I'll play it for you. Yeah, Harry Carney. He was the baritone saxophone player with Duke for many, many, many years. Any other questions? What? Where? Okay. His real name is Edward Kennedy Ellington. Edward Kennedy Ellington. But he got the nickname Duke early on. Does anybody know how he got the Duke name? I don't know. We got a question over here. Well, I bought contracts, signed contracts by these famous people, which are in the library. I have some ledgers where he was paying his musicians. Oh, the question was, did I buy anything other than music? And I bought some contracts. Did I lose anything in the auction? Yes. Yes, there were lots of pieces that I didn't buy. And Tony Bennett had a guy there. The Smithsonian was bidding. The new Smithsonian African Museum was bidding. But so yeah, there were things I didn't buy. But I do have other things which are might work out for a concert for next year. Okay, let's move on. This is our last official song. Now, many of you know, listen carefully now, the story of when Billy Strayhorn moved to Brooklyn in 1941 to join the Ellington Orchestra. He moved to where? He's paying attention over here. He moved to Brooklyn. But Duke, of course, lived in Harlem. So Billy Strayhorn says, how do you get to Harlem? And you take the A train. Hey, Nova Scotia's got the hot table there. Hey, now let's fast forward 60 years. Okay. I'm at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. All right? Yeah, I got there when they opened the doors Saturday morning. And around noon, the Metropolitan Museum of New York has a satellite called the Cloisters. It features medieval art. And I wanted to see the unicorn tapestries and the Robert Champagne Annunciation altar painting. So I asked the young docent at the Met, how is the best way to get to the Cloisters? And you know what she said? How do you get to the Cloisters from downtown, midtown Manhattan. She said it's either a $50 cab drive, but she says, I'd take the A train. And I said to her, you mean doodly-doo, wee-doo, boop, wee-dow, booty, boop-a-doo-bee, boop-a-dee-bow. And she, yeah. And she looked at me like, what? Who is this guy? So I had to tell her the story about Duke Ellington and Billy Strayhorn. But anyhow, I got up to the Cloisters and I took the A train and it worked out just fine. Okay, so here we go. So how do you get to the Cloisters? Tom Hope, take us. Here's Rocky. Rocky here. Here's Alyssa. Here's Alyssa. Here's Hey, thank you. Right. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We are the Jazz Union with our Luminarts scholarship winners. Here we go ahead. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Here's Duke Ellington's C-Jam Blues. So, I want to thank the Union League Club for supporting the Jazz Union and this event this evening. Mark Tunney, Katie Hurley, Cheryl Ziegler, Sally Metzler, Jason Calajanan, Mark and Jason in Audiovisual, and the members of the Jazz Union. Luke, take it. Here's Luke Kahn. Yeah. So members of the Jazz Union, thank you. And all of those who support the Jazz Union. And Bob Ojeda, our musical director, arranger and orchestra. And Judy Gillespie for her beautiful paintings. Bruce, here's Bruce Miller. Here's Doc Marshak. Yeah, Doc Marshall. Here's Kenny Thompson. Here's Alyssa. Yeah, listen all good. Here's Bob Ojeda. Here's Victor. Here's Brent. Here's Rocky. Yeah, Brent, Rocky. Here's Luke. Here's Lawrence. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Hey, grab a schedule. Get a schedule in the back. Thank you again. Thank you again. Hey, the bar is still over. The bar is in the back. Get a schedule. Fill out the email if you're not on the email list. Very much the Duke Ellington tradition. Well, the band was tearing down. Duke would go over and play a solo piano. This is Tom Hope.